Welcome to another edition of Mortgage Chicks with Hot Tips. My name is Stacy Van Skank.
I'm Kim Hairsted.
I'm Cindy Walker.
And I'm Elizabeth Hull.
This week's topic is going to be non-owner occupied. This is a hot topic in the industry. There's been radical changes to NOO is what we call it, non-owner occupied. And what that term means is that is a home that someone is not going to occupy as their primary residence year-round. So in other words, it's going to be someone's vacation home or second home or an investment property. And like I said, I alluded to earlier, there are a lot of changes in these programs. So what have you found, Cindy, in your research?
So this has just come about in the last few months, as we all know. Second homes were always treated like primary residences in that the interest rate was the same. So now the only difference with second homes and primary residences was there was 10% down requirement for down payment, and primary residents could get in for 3% or 5% down. Well, that's still the case, 10% down for second homes, but the rates are tough. So now they're not the same as primary residences. Now second homes are basically the same as investment properties unless they put a little bit more than that 10% down and start thinking 25% down.
Yeah.
So that's a big change this year, ladies.
And another thing that we're seeing a lot of too is bridging appraisal gaps. And especially when you're using all your funds, when you're buying a non-owner occupied property, one of the big things you have to have are reserves. So you don't want to overextend yourself on the contract because in some cases, depending on your credit and the whole situation, you could need from 2 months to 4 months of reserves. And when I say reserves, what I'm referring to is principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. The payment, at least 2 to 4 months of that in the bank after your down payment, your closing costs, and if you're bridging any gaps with the appraisal. Mm-hmm. So you want to make sure that you remember those things. And again, in this tricky market where people are, a little extending themselves a little, far, we want to make sure that you're talking to your lender because your dollars may really affect how you get approved.
And that's for every property owned. So if they own numerous,
that's true. Right. Yes,
numerous homes, it's for every property owned, and also the funds have to be liquid.
That's right.
And if they're not liquid, we can get the terms and conditions of the liquidation. Right. But it's a big deal. It's not just let me give you my 401k statement and I have $100,000. Right. What if you own 5 houses? So it's like you said, Elizabeth, talk to your lender.
Right, and especially on the 401k because we can only count a certain percentage of that. So, and it can come down to dollars. I know in a few situations we've been like,
down to a penny.
Don't you have another account somewhere?
Yeah.
Please have some more money.
Yes, absolutely.
And we have to get terms of liquidation, to show how, if there's penalties when they liquidate. So it can get tricky. Yeah.
Yeah. And some of the things that people don't realize is what is a second home. Like, can I rent my second home? Yeah, you can rent your second home, but you have to occupy it at some point, and you can't rent it for a whole 12-month period. You could, rent it for the winter for the Florida snowbirds or whatever, and and then the rest of the time keep it for yourself. But you can rent a second home. You just have to occupy it.
At least 2 weeks a year.
At least 2 weeks a year, but you can't. It can't be a short-term rental.
That's what I was going to say. Aren't we? We're sticky about like the VBROs and the
especially if it's a condo. You can't do those. We can't do those conventionally, anyways. We use those.
Can we do condos anymore, anyways? Aren't they that? Just kidding, guys. We can.
Yeah, we can.
No timeshares or anything like that we can lend on through conventional financing. We do have financing for non-qualified mortgages for that very thing. But as far as like investment properties, you have to put down at least 15%. It's going to be much better if you put down at least 25% or even 30% if you're doing a condo, so that we could get
better rates
and
slightly easier approval process.
Lots easier approval you get a limited review where we don't have to review the whole condo docs and everything like that. So investment properties and second homes are a tricky entity to try to purchase these days, and the interest rates are a lot higher. But we do have a lot of avenues.
Well, and the 15% down on investment property, it's a risk for the PMI companies.
Right.
So you have to get PMI on those. The PMI factor
Which
is
stands for private mortgage insurance.
the PMI is really expensive on those.
It is.
loans.
Yes,
so
it
you're,
is.
like you said, you're better off putting 20% down.
25,
In a
30%.
condo, even
Yeah.
putting more down.
Yeah.
Especially, so you know, you can get a better rate and there's not as much red tape to get the condo approved.
Right. Well, and not to scare everybody away from getting these kind of properties because rents are good right now. So passive income with a rental property
Yes.
would be great. And I know a lot of people are worried about being overextended. There are ways that we can use rental income on the property that they're buying to help them qualify. So it's just another great reason to give us a call if you're thinking about buying
Yes.
an investment property or a second home.
We can't use, though, rental on a second home, if we call it a second home.
Right.
Yes.
Only
Yes.
investment.
Only investment.
property
Yes, sorry.
we
Good
can
catch,
use
Kim.
it. Yeah, so we have loans where you can do an investment property and you need no income at all, as long as you have your own primary residence. We can just do it based on the income of the property through an appraisal rent schedule, and then with that, if the rent schedule covers the mortgage payment, then you're in like a no-doc loan.
We'll do a different podcast on that.
Yes,
Because
we-
I think that's a great program
Yeah.
we need to go over with people.
Yeah,
Well, and again, not to discourage people, because real estate is the very best investment you can make in your lifetime.
Amen.
Absolutely.
I truly, truly believe that. So this isn't to scare people away, but it's kind of just to set
Throwing
the
out guidelines.
expectation
Yeah.
because it's changed and it's different, especially the rate right now. And the rate probably is going to include points. So it's a change in your closing costs.
Right.
So before people go willy-nilly out there and start making offers for second home or investment properties, they need to know the true numbers.
For
right,
sure.
and they need to give us a call because the news is very scary right now, especially when it comes to the housing market. So, as they say, not all the news is real news, some of it's fake news. So give us a call and let us go over what the real guidelines are.
so you don't have sticker shock when you get to the
Amen.
time of pricing your loans.
Well, that wraps it up for this week's Mortgage Chicks with Hot Tips podcast. Don't forget, if you have any topics you'd like for us to discuss or any questions, we can be reached at mortgagechicks@vandykemortgage.com.
Please follow us on our Facebook page, Mortgage Chicks with Hot Tips.
And don't forget to like our page. And also, we're available where you listen to all your podcasts.